Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another one of my FutureFight Vanguard series. Today we are going to be talking about the Nubatama GB8 deck. So yet another deck. I feel like this is becoming a trend, but yet another deck where they didn't have a lot of unflipped strides for me to be able to create like a GB8 turbo deck or a deck that would actually be able to make it to GB8. So I had to use the GBT11 stuff. So this is actually going to be a domination profile instead of an Afterimage profile because they don't have that many unflipped strides for Afterimage. So yeah, a few things to mention. Make sure that you guys check out the 500 subscriber contest that will be ending tomorrow at 12 p.m. So literally at like 11:59 or 12 p.m. I'm gonna like close it off, and no one else is gonna be able to enter. So make sure that you enter by then if you would like to be in that contest. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to try to knock this out so that we can head over to locals. So yeah. We're gonna unflip our strides real quick. And I've been trying to find a way to make these types of videos shorter for you guys. It's just that most of the time that it takes up on the videos is the actual matches because it like slows down randomly. Like even if I put it as a sped up speed, it slows down randomly while I'm replaying the recording. So it's weird. But yeah, our grade 3s, we run 7 grade 3s. We run 4 of the new Shiranui, Shiranui Oboro. It has 2 abilities. One that says at the beginning of your ride phase, so this is obviously before you stride, and since it's at the beginning of your ride phase, it has to already be on the Vanguard circle. So either if you went first, riding it, or if your opponent, like, if you went first, or it's your second stride turn, basically. So you ride Shiranui Oboro, and at the beginning of your ride phase, you can choose a card from your opponent's drop zone, any card, and then your opponent chooses a rearguard circle to call it to. So solid skill. It prevents your opponent from like clearing their board to avoid domination. So that's pretty cool. I don't think I ever used it that much. Even though in one specific situation I remember I should have, I never used it that much during my games. The second ability is the domination skill. When your G unit strides, it's a completely free skill, so it doesn't have a cost. It just says when your G unit strides, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, dominate it as stand, and then it gets plus 4,000. And then you choose another of your opponent's units, and you can attack with it. And if you meet the requirements, you can also use its abilities and stuff like that too. So what this means is, for those of you who don't know, domination, it is the second keyword for Nubatama, one that is coming out in GBT11 / this trial deck for Shiranui, where domination chooses one of your opponent's rear guards and it temporarily becomes yours, and then you can attack whatever the actual domination skill says that you attack. You can choose a target and attack. Unless it just says attacks Vanguard, then it just attacks Vanguard, and you don't get a choice in the matter. And if you dominate multiple units at once, all of those units are counted as yours until the end of themselves attacking. So let's say that with Shiranui Oboro's skill, you dominate a rear guard and then it attacks. That means that unit is done being dominated until it gets dominated again. So it is back to your opponent at that point. So then we run 3 Jack and Mio. It has 2 skills. One is a domination skill. When it's first placed on Vanguard, you can choose an opponent's rearguard, dominate it as stand, and then it attacks your opponent's Vanguard. This card is really good for decks that are like grade 1 7Cs Russian, stuff like that, that don't actually go up into the stride phase, because this card just says ride it and domination. So pretty good. It's also good to ride when your opponent's on grade 2 and they've just like rushed you or something, and so they have 9Ks on the board. So you can make their 9K be dominated and then attack their Vanguard for extra pressure or extra card out of their hand or extra damage. Then its second ability is Vanguard Rearguard skill. During your turn, when any other rearguard attacks a Vanguard, then this unit gets plus 2,000 power. So it's kind of like a grade 3 version of Furai, except Furai has to have Shiranui in the name of your Vanguard. So then for our grade 2s, we run 12 grade 2s, 4 Genkai. So what Genkai does is whenever a dominated unit attacks during your turn, you counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and then if you have a Shiranui Vanguard, you can draw a card and it gets plus 2,000 power. So this isn't once per turn, guys, so you can just use this as many times as you attack with dominated units during your turn. Then we have Stealth Dragon Furai. It has 2 abilities. Generation Break 1, Soul Blast 1 is the first ability, and it just says choose a card from your opponent's rear guard or from their opponent's drop zone, and then your opponent calls that card to his or her open rear guard circle. So it's just like the Shiranui Oboro skill, but the difference between this one and that one is this one makes you call it to an open rear guard circle, so it forces them to not like they can't call over to avoid it. So in situations where you might be going into Mugen Lord or Mugen Lord as your stride that turn, sometimes you'll choose a card to call with a Shiranui Oboro, and they'll just call it over their own card so that they can not be attacked one more time. But Furai makes them call to an open rear guard circle, so it's better skill in that respect. And then at the end of the turn, they retire. Both Oboro skill and Furai. At the end of the turn, the unit called with it retires, so it doesn't allow your opponent a free unit or anything. Do beware though that if you make them call a card and then they have something like they're playing Bermuda or something like that, or they're playing Shadow Paladin, you could just be aiding them. So be careful what your matchup is, because if you play Bermuda, like they could G-guard and bounce something to their hand that you just called from the drop zone. So do be careful of that. Then it has another skill that's just like our other grade 3. So Furai is literally both of our grade 3s combined. But yeah, so Furai is when another unit attacks during our turn. If we have a Shiranui Vanguard, then it gets plus 2k. Then we have 4 Stealth Beasts Uzi Itachi. So what Uzi Itachi does is whenever a dominated unit attack hits, you retire this unit. I wish the cost wasn't retire itself, but it's a okay card. But when a dominated unit attack hits, you retire it, and then your opponent has to choose a card from their hand and discard it. So your opponent loses a card and you lose a card. It's like your opponent can discard like a draw trigger or something. Like I almost rather run something else over this, but I don't think we have any more options to run something over this. Next we have 4 Stride Fighter, pretty basic. 4 of the new PG, Utsuroi. So what Utsuroi does is it has 2 skills. One is a regular PG skill, and then the other one is kind of similar to Erzus from Shadow Paladin, but the requirement is that a dominated unit attack hits. So if a dominated unit attack hits and you have 2 of these in your drop zone, you can choose one, put it on the bottom of your deck, and then return one to your hand. So it's a very solid card. Although at the point where you might have used 2 PGs in the game, your opponent won't be letting any more dominated units hit at that point. So it's kind of like, it's kind of meh. But next you have 4 Stealth Dragon Tenrai, or Tenrai, however you would pronounce it. It has 2 skills. One is Generation Break 1. During your turn, if your Vanguard is Shiranui, basically, your Vanguard gets the name of all your opponent's card names, clans, races, and nations. So what this means is this is basically just like to use your opponent's rearguard skill. So if your opponent's rearguard skill says if you have a Chronojet Dragon name to use the ability, or if you have a Gear Chronicle Vanguard, this makes your Shiranui Gear Chronicle or Chronojet. Technically, anything that your opponent has, you have. So yeah, it's really good. Then its other skill is when an attack hits during attack that it participated in, basically, attacked or boosted, you can put this card into your soul, and your opponent chooses a card and discards it. Then we have 2 Tengai, basically our countercharge engine. When a dominated unit attacks, it gives it a skill that says at the end of the turn you can put this card into the soul and countercharge one. So pretty basic. Our starter is Madoi. So what Madoi does is you put this unit into the soul when a dominated unit attacks, and you can draw a card and choose any of your rear or any choose any rear guard, and it gets plus 3,000 power. So pretty solid card. Usually I'm using it during the first stride to give +3 to whatever I give +4 from during Shiranui Obero's on stride skill. Then we have 8 crit, 4 stand, and 4 heal. We have 4 of the Shiranui crit, 4 of this new crit called Toro Sada, where you can just shove it into the soul and countercharge one. Kind of useful. I didn't use it all that much, but good for if you find yourself lacking counterblast. Also really good because during your GB8 turn, this counts as like 2 GB8 stacks that you can use because it gives you a Soul Blast and a Counter Blast to use. So then we run 4 Daruma Collapse. Like, look at this card. How could you not run it? It just looks so awesome. But what this card does is when any fighter's unit is stood due to an effect during your turn, so if your opponent checks a stand trigger and stands their card, that counts as standing from an effect, and you can use the ability of this stand trigger. Or if they stand by domination, or anything like that. Or if we stand one of our units, if we check a stand trigger. So when any fighter's unit is stood due to an effect from cards, you can retire this unit, and if you do, choose any number of your fighters, units in the same column as the unit that restood, and they get plus 2,000 power. And then if you choose one or more units, basically if you choose any unit to draw a card. So pretty good. The only thing I am sad about is that it doesn't recycle itself to the deck, but I guess that would be way too good. So we run 4 of the new Zashiki Hime. It is the Fighters Collection version of it, and basically it's a discard 1, drop 1 when you go into the Zashiki Hime G Guardian. So getting into our G zone, we have 4 Mugen Lord. Mugen Lord is one of our new domination strides. It says counterboss 1 and flip a Mugen Lord, and then you choose any number of your rear guards that's up to the same number. You choose any number of any rear guards, so your opponent's or your own, that are equal to face-up cards in the G zone, and they get plus 4,000 power, and then you dominate all of your opponent's units that you chose, and then you stand them, and then each of them attacks the Vanguard. So let's say that your opponent has 5 cards on their field, we have 5 cards on our field, and we have 10 cards face up in the G zone after using Mugen Lord. Then all of the rear guards on the field, except if they have the resist, get plus 4k, and then all of your opponent's rear guards will attack their Vanguard, and you get to choose the order. So do be aware of that. Then we run 4 Magan Tenbu. So what Magan Tenbu does is counterboss 1 and flip itself, and then you choose one of your opponent's rear guards. It gets plus 3,000 for every card face up in the G zone. So it basically makes your opponent's rear guard into like a Blizza, and then makes it attack them. And then at the end of the battle, it retires. So it's really good if you want to get something off your opponent's board, but also use it against them at the same time. Then we run 1 GB8. The GB8 for Nubatama is absolutely broken. Like, I don't think I've ever had a turn where I've gone to the GB8 where someone has survived. Like, this GB8 is so good. But whenever your opponent places a unit from guard circle to hand, which means that the only way that it can get around, they can get around this GB8 by guarding is G guarding, number 1. If you're playing Gurguit and you use the skill to guard from deck, and if you're intercepting. And I think that's it. But when your opponent's unit is placed on Guardian Circle from their hand, you can counterblast 1 or soul blast 1, and you make them discard 2 cards. So basically, in order, like, on top of Shiranui Obero, like, when you stride on top of this with Shiranui Obero, you already make one of their rear guards attack them, usually a grade 2, and they can't intercept with that grade 2 because it's being dominated. So usually they have to intercept with the other card, which gets rid of one of their ways that they can avoid the GB8. And then if you attack them 3 times, that's at least 9 cards that they have to drop, assuming that they guard all of your columns with 1 card. So pretty good. They have to have like a really solid hand to survive this. Then we run 1 King Okutunbu, even though we never really used it. It's basically just at the beginning of your battle phase, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and then you dominate it. So it's pretty basic. We run Sabreeze in case anyone tries to gimp us and stay on grade 2. Then we run 2 of the new Za Shikihime G Guardian. What it does is you choose a face down G Guardian and you turn it face up, and then your opponent makes a choice. They can either discard a card or not discard a card. If they discard a card, then nothing else happens. If they don't discard a card, then this unit gets plus 20k shield. So it's pretty good in situations where you force your opponent's hand down into cards where they don't really want to discard. So they won't discard, and you'll just get like an instant no pass usually on whatever you G-guarded with. But then we have one of the other. We have a 3 one of G Guardians. Even though these two look the same, they're basically like, I think, clones of each other, but it's just like a new version. So this one is Jinx Stealth Hermit Abu Daishi. When this card is placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of cards in your opponent's hand is 6 or less, then this unit gets plus 5,000 shield. And this one is Secret Stealth Hermit Abu Daishi, something like that. So Jinx Stealth Hermit, Secret Stealth Hermit. So when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of cards in your opponent's hand is less than like if you have less cards than your opponent, then this card gets plus 5,000 shield. So this card you use when your opponent's hand is low, and this card you use when your hand is low. So then we have the Domination G Guardian, Gehorakan. So you counterblast 1, soul blast 1 when it's placed on the Guardian Circle, and if you do, you choose one of your opponent's grade 1 rear guards in the back row, you dominate it and move it to the guard circle. So it becomes, you dominate one of their grade 1s and it becomes your own, and you can guard with it, meaning that you can stop things like, in Night Rose you can stop one of their Negro Bones. There's a lot of good grade 1s in the game, so you can stop a lot of stuff with it. But getting right into the matches, we're gonna try to try something new today with the matches so that we can hopefully attempt to make it a little bit faster so that the videos don't have to be like an hour and stuff like that. Even though some of you enjoy that from what I understand. Which I could understand, like if you're at like a boring desk job or something, maybe like watching an hour YouTube video is like entertaining for you. So we're loading up the Nubatama GB8 1 video, and we're gonna play it at a speed of 5. So for our first game, oh no, this is not the right build. No. Okay. That was so before, what you guys just saw is we were trying out an Afterimage build to try to get GB8. And basically the Afterimage build didn't work, so I had to switch to the Domination build. But let's see about these recordings here. So we have... Oh, I see what I did. Okay. So instead of putting a 1, I just named it Nubatama GB8 since I had already... I thought I renamed it 1 just so that I could override the first one. But yeah, good to know that I have that. But yeah, basically this first game, I don't know if that would be entertaining for you guys to watch, but it was Afterimage versus Domination. And I lost that one pretty badly. But yeah, so... Yep, this is the right one. Okay, so the first game looks like we're playing against Chito Cho. Our hand's not really great. However, he does have to G-assist, so his hand's not great either. Which honestly, I didn't even notice that he G-assisted when I was playing him, but I guess I wasn't paying attention for the first few moments. But he rides a grade 2, and then he attacks me, he checks, and I check a heal trigger. And then I draw a grade 3, which I'm able to play the Stride Fodder and search Shiranui Oboro and then discard a card. So we're able to just attack him for 14, and he takes it. And then he attacks us with the Chito Cho card. We take it, And then we ride Shiranui Oboro and we stride into Magentimbu, I believe. I was reading all the strides at this point because pretty much when I build a deck for you guys, like I'm just playing it for the first time most of the time. So we did dominate his starter and it gained 4K, but it just didn't hit the Vanguard because the Vanguard's 11K. But or what we did is we used Modoi at the same time. So Modoi made sure that it hit the Vanguard, but he did check a draw trigger during it, which kind of sucked because, you know, we can't hit his Vanguard anymore with the Magentimbu skill, so that was kind of awful. But we kind of bust one and make him dominate it, and it gains 3K in attacks, but it'll just be 15. And then it retires itself at the end of the turn. So we're also using Genki here to counter boss one, soul boss one, and gain 2K. Then we're playing Tengai here, and this should have gained 2K, but I don't know if that matters. Yeah, it didn't really matter in the length of things, I guess. I'm forgetting the word I want to say. But we checked a stand trigger and a crit trigger. So we're attacking him with the column that has 2 crit first, so that he has to drop cards and just can't check a trigger and guard for less. And I wasn't paying attention, but at the end of this, we actually should have... oh, sorry, we couldn't use this Tengai. I don't think. Yeah, we couldn't use this Tengai. Because it has to have a dominating unit attack. But he does attack my Vanguard twice, and then he attacks with his Vanguard using the Chito Cho stride to counter boss flip and then return 4, and he's just going to choose to call 3 only. So I no guard his Vanguard. He checks 3 cards. None of them are trigger, and then I take it and I get a trigger, so he just opts to attack my rear guards, which is fine with me. I stride into, yeah, so if he attacks my rear guards, it's fine with me because now his rear guards are mine, so I don't need rear guards, right? There's the logic behind that. So I do dominate his crit trigger just so that it can gain 4K, so that when I get ready to Mugen Lord, like his whole board, then that will hit him as well. So I decide to play the grade 2. Then I use Mugen Lord to dominate all 3. They all get plus 4,000 power. Then I make the crit trigger attack his Vanguard first. He guards a 5. Then I make his grade 2 attack. And then I made his grade 3 attack, and I used the skill of his grade 3 to pay the cost and put this Chito Cho to the bottom of his deck. Since they're all considered my rear guard, I just put that Chito Cho to the bottom of his deck and didn't call a Chito Cho from my hand because obviously I don't run Chito Cho cards, but I just wanted that card out of the way so that he couldn't intercept with it. So we do attack for 16, and then we do attack for 33. He does PG, and we check a heal trigger, putting power to our rear guard. And then he strides into the Chito Cho stride again. He uses the on-stride ability to look at the top card, and it was a Chito Cho, so he put the crit trigger to bottom in order to draw another card. So he attacks with his rear guard, then he attacks with his other rear guard with no skill, so we take it. We take both attacks. And then he uses the Chito Cho stride, draws 5, and then chooses to call, I thought only 2 at first, but then I asked him, and then he decided to call the other crit trigger as well. So he calls 3. We G-Guardian. Into the new G-Guard. So we flip a card. We flip the Domination G-Guardian, and then he chooses not to discard, so it gets plus 20k, making it a no pass. And then he checks 3 cards. One is a crit trigger, so he puts the crit all to rear guard. And then he uses the crit trigger skill to call a card, and he gets plus 5k. So he attacks with that. We intercept. And then he attacks our Vanguard and uses the skill of his grade 2 to draw a card, and then we G-guard that just so that we can be GB7. That way we can stride right now and go into GB8. So we go into GB8 and we dominate with Ouroboros, attack his Vanguard. And he guards with a 5k, so we use the GB8 skill to counterblast 1 and make him drop 2 cards. So then we play 2 cards to attack with ourselves. And then we attack for 16. He G-guards, so nothing we can do about that. But then he PGs, which was kind of a mistake here. But he since we're the GB8, he PGs, and that basically means that he loses 4 cards in his hand. So even though we check nothing, the last attack hits, and that is game. So moving on to the next game. Yeah, so that's what I was talking about the GB8, guys. Like, there's so much that you have to do to play around it. Like, it's just too good in my opinion. But yeah. So Nubatama GB82 at 5 speed. So it looks like we're playing against blasters this time. Our hand is actually very, very solid. So we are thankful for that. He checks the Flogel and he attacks us with Blaster Blade and crits us right off the bat. Which for me, like, actually wasn't a big deal for once in my life. Like, I don't know why, but I always get sacked by blasters, so maybe my body's just used to it. But yeah, he checks the heal trigger and a crit, as expected, because you wouldn't be playing blasters if you didn't sack, right? But then we check the stand trigger and we put it on our Vanguard. He attacks our rear guard, and then he surprisingly checks no triggers, so he's not able to hit our Vanguard. So with Magun Timbu, what we should have done is, I feel like we should have dominated the Flogel, but I guess it's fine. We dominated Blaster Blade and had it attack him. And then we're dominating Blaster Blade again, making it gain 3k. And then we're attacking his Vanguard. And we made him discard a card with the card that says when it hits, discard 1. So we check a crit, put it all to rear guard. And then we don't check a stand trigger, so we just put our grade 1 into our soul, countercharge 1, and in the turn, he strides and goes into Gancelot, uses Lu to put back a blaster, and then he's calling the other grade 2 Lu here. So we guard the grade 2 Lu, he puts it into his soul, and then just like I imagined, he would attack with this one and then this one, and then I no guarded, thinking that he would like double crit me or something. But he actually checks 3 grade 3s and a stride fodder. So he has stride fodder forever, but he can't hit me, which is so funny because I'm so used to getting sacked by blasters. Like, this is weird for me. But we do dominate his Blaster Blade, and he intercepts with the Lu, which is fine. Then we use Mugen Lord. This is what I was talking about of how I should have called a card using Ouroboros. Because of that, he doesn't have 3 units on the field to dominate. So basically, the only ones that hit is Blaster Blade. But I counterblast 2 and Soul Blast 2 for Genkai to give it +4 and draw draw cards. So 16 and then 26. I didn't realize that he didn't have like a PG or something in his hand, so he 2 to passes us. We put crit all to Vanguard, and then luckily for him, we don't get the 2 to pass. But I guess luckily for us, he didn't check triggers last turn either. So he goes into Gancelot once again, plays another Lu, returns a Blaster Blade, and then he searched this Blaster Blade off of the Exceed skill. So for this one, we just PG'd it because we didn't want to get sacked really. But this one, he checks a grade 2, then an Exceed, then a draw trigger, and a crit trigger. And I was like, that's more what we're used to. But we G-guard here into just the regular G-Guardian. And then he uses Flogel, just as we expected, to attack us again. And we G-guard again. Using the new G-guard, he doesn't discard. And so now we're GB8. So we stride into our GB8. And then we use Ouroboros to make his Blaster Blade attack him. And then he intercepts with Lu. Then we use the skill of the stand trigger to draw a card. And then we attack his Vanguard for 11. He intercepts, and then we attack his Vanguard for 31. And then I had to stop him from guarding one at a time, because when your opponent's on GB8, the Nubatama GB8, you have to basically guard one at a time so that they can activate skill for each card placed. So he chooses to just no guard because it's not worth it. He won't survive. And then we check a critical, even though we didn't need it, and we deal 1 damage to him, and that was the end of that game. So yeah, that was game 2, guys. As I was saying, you guys can see the power of the GB8. Like, it's so strong. Like, if your opponent makes it to GB8 and they're playing Nubatama, like, they probably just won the game. Unless you're playing some super hand advantage deck, like Cough Cough Nitros. I don't know. Because Nitros can also avoid most of the GB8, I feel like, by setting up the Skeleton Cannoneer play. And retiring their other card that would attack. So since they G-guarded, they wouldn't have to discard. And then they're getting rid of another attack, so they wouldn't have to discard. So for our third and final match for the FutureFight, we are playing against Token Ranbu. And even though I hate this clan so much because I feel like it's not a real clan, this player did pretty good against me with it. Even though it was like a sack fight to the death, like pretty much. But he attacked me for 14, and I was waiting for him to use the skill, but I noticed that he had to be 3 damage or more. So I really wanted to check rear guards off of this one check. So he intercepts with his grade 2, knowing that the attack will still hit, which I didn't really know why that was necessary, to be honest. But then we double crit him, which a lot of people might be like, oh, you're so lucky, you got double crit. But like, I would rather just have rear guards, so I can actually do stuff with my abilities. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm not mad, I guess, that I got double crit. I mean, who could be mad? The only time I like double critting, though, is when it ends the game. Otherwise than that, like, I'd rather just get, like, draw triggers or heal triggers or something. But he uses his rear guard to attack my Vanguard and my starter. So that's sadness for me because that would have been an extra card that would have been able to draw. He attacks me from the rear guard or from the back row with that other card that turns itself into a 16k. And then he attacks our Vanguard with his. We no guard it, and he double crits us too. So yeah, that was the thing. So then we didn't check 2 triggers on our damage check, so we had to guard this other card. So we G-guarded it. And then just to make him get rid of that other grade 1 that attacks from the back row, we used the Domination G-Guardian. So we can stride. And I went into Magging Tembu here, but now that I'm thinking about it, I should have just gone into... since I G-guarded, I should have just gone into the other one. Forgetting what it's called, but yeah. But then again, I realized why he played this card, because this card cannot be chosen by the effects of your opponent's card, so it basically has resist, which I didn't realize because it doesn't have like the resist keyword on it, so that's what I usually look for. And plus, I don't play Token Ranbu, so I don't know anything about this clan. It's like the only clan in the game that I don't focus on knowing anything about. I just deal with it when I come across it, and usually it's not really like a huge deal or a huge challenge or anything. Some people might get offended when I say that, but yeah, I mean, it's just the truth. Every Token Ranbu player I've ever played in real life, I beat. So, then he goes into Nihongyo, which is basically this stride that hits me for huge, and I can't. And when I was reading it, I was like, okay, it hits me for huge. It's basically a Blizza. But then I read the part where it's like you can't guard with Sentinels, and I was like, No. I was like, this means death for us. And he knows that um, we haven't checked anything. We didn't check a heal trigger, so there's no chance for us to no guard and take the attack. So we just no guard his Vanguard attack. And then I asked him if he was using the crit trigger skill, and he was not. So then I asked him if he counterblasted one, and I didn't realize that he unflipped with the draw trigger, and then counterblasted with his stride, and then countercharged with his starter. So yeah, pretty good combo, I guess. But then we're discussing it basically. And it's interesting that his username is Ahmed's Blade or something like that, because a lot of people don't know that, like, Blaster Blade, a lot of people think Blaster Blade is the name of the dude that's in Blaster Blade's card art, but the guy in Blaster Blade's card art is actually named Ahmed's, and Blaster Blade is the name of the actual sword that he's holding. So, but yeah, fun fact for you guys. But yeah, he crits us, and then he ends the game. But yeah, that has been the Nubatama GB8 video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And let them know what the hype's all about Domination. Other things to mention as we're closing out, the 500 subscriber contest. It's like the second time I'm mentioning it in this video. But do check that out. I don't want you guys to miss out on that. It ends tomorrow at noon. And then... other than that, comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought. Check out all the crazy things in the description. Follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon if you want to donate to Patreon. And yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.